card! Great!
Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it.
How's it going, everyone? I am the Dungeon Meister, and welcome back to the table. And today on Shadowverse, they have announced a patch that is coming very soon, as you can see here. And I've had a chance to kind of read through this myself and process everything that they're talking about. So we're going to go through it card by card here, and I'll give a little bit of my thoughts on it as we go by, and then I'll give kind of a nutshell recap response once we get to the end. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So the first card on the list here is Doomlord, and I think that this is a great nerf for Vengeance Blood. When that deck high rolls, it feels bad, just because it really just doesn't feel like anything you could do can stop them or could make you survive or anything like that. And so changing Doomlord from 6 to 7 delays their, early game advantage potential, kind of whittling you down and then having basically a no risk play because they can just fuse. Bringing that up to 7 will delay their game plan a little bit, slow the deck down, give other decks a chance to kind of respond to them being such low health, and kind of open up new windows of gameplay. So I think this is a great change for Vengeance Blood. And then next here we have the Teacher, and I haven't played around with Burial Rite too much. I have a little bit, and I think that this is a okay change. I think bringing it down from a 3 cost with 3/3 stats to 2 cost with 2/2 stats, I think is fine because it's whatever. She has Bane, so I mean, it really doesn't really matter what her stats are. She's probably going to be killing something much bigger than her anyway. And you're kind of mainly playing her for her effects. So, I think this is a okay change. Mysteria, I think this is a crazy change. So they're changing it so that instead of doing 3 damage and healing 3, you deal 5 damage and heal 5 when you evolve. And I think that's actually insane. That brings her up to par with some of the other high tier board clears. Howling Demon and Wrathblood, Drazael for your any dragon deck. Anything that does big AoE and heals 5 defense, pretty good. And then they're also changing the sorcery so that it summons copies of Mysteria followers that have left play. So this gets around and summoning banishing itself pretty much. Where if you just kind of play it and leave it on the board as a body and your opponent passes turn, so it just banishes. So this is okay if you happen to play a summoning through the match, an and summoning, but I don't know how much this is really gonna matter, but I think it's an okay change. This part here, the 5 damage, 5 heal, I think is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Sin Hunter, I feel like this card got a great change because before its effect was very niche and almost impossible to pull off if you didn't have the right setup in your hand. But adding that or the effect that if it's Burial Rite 2 times in the turn or 5 times in the match, I think this makes this card much, much better. It's going to splash much easier into the deck. It's going to feel a lot easier to play around with. And so I think that this change is a fantastic change that isn't going to break the deck at all, but is definitely going to make it more viable. It's going to be a little bit stronger. Let's see what's next. The Haven. I don't know how to feel about this. I feel like this is good. With these cards and the cost of these cards being changed from 3 to 2, mainly because of the main effect. But I feel like that part is good, but I don't exactly know what it's supposed to do, because with Heel Haven, that's the deck that I've been playing the most recently, and just to try and understand it a little bit more. And the deck just doesn't have a way to win the game that isn't, just gigantic follower. It's kind of like Buff Dragon, When I leave Buff Dragon has Joe to do like a bunch of damage for meeting your, large defense quest, but Heel Haven is just like throw a follower down and buff it into oblivion and hope your opponent doesn't have an answer. There is no like straight way to win the game with the deck. You could like splash in a copy of Bahamut maybe, and maybe that could be a win con, but I'm not sure. So I think this change overall to the card is good, but I don't quite understand what the goal is for the deck. I don't know if this helps the deck at all. This doesn't really solve the issue of how do I win the game. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this will help accelerate it so that you get your big stat followers a little bit faster. Um, or you can like have opportunities to set up boards or something like that. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm gonna kind of keep my eyes on this and see how other people play this card, because it's not jumping out to me. It's not super apparent or obvious, other than just obviously the card's getting better. But I don't know how this is gonna slot in, what you're gonna use it for. And then Machina. I like this. I think this is fun. I tried playing this deck earlier, but this was a deck that just it causes you misery, because if you played this deck and queued into Wrath, Blood, or Vengeance, you just kind of hit the FF button right away. Most decks kind of destroy this deck, but I do like that it's Machina or Academic. I don't really know who else you're gonna be throwing in here, because I think all of the Machina cards are also Academic, so that doesn't really change. Lucius, maybe, but I don't know. I'll have to like look at all the Academic followers again and see if there's any more that splash in here, but I'm pretty sure they already all overlap. So I mean, yay, but I don't know how much that's really gonna help, but I guess we'll see. Uh, Gratina, same thing. They changed her. They changed a couple things on her. So it's 10 allied Machina or Academic followers, just like everything else. But they also changed the strike effect from 15 down to 10. So as soon as she summons, you get her strike effect. So her like quest reward is active immediately, and I think that's great, because it was really dumb to have her invoke from the deck and then she can't do anything. It's like, aha, yes, I've hit my quest. Here is my reward. Oh, it doesn't do anything. Oh, it died. Oh. So so I think this is a great change for the card, going from 15 down to 10 to get the strike effect. Just just cuz I think it makes sense, but I don't really know. Again, I don't know how good this deck is going to be. I think this will maybe give it a little nudge off of the like very bottom, but I don't foresee this deck being being a problem unless something goes crazy. Unless someone cooks up something crazy, like I don't think this deck in this format is gonna go hard. Maybe when the mini expansion comes out, maybe they'll give more Machina support, more Academic cards that can be played in here. Then maybe then, but as of right now, I don't really think. I think this is like a setup buff where they're setting this card up to be good. Uh, and then the last thing, a Take Two change. They're pulling Legendary Sword Commander out of Take Two, which I don't play a lot of Take Two, but I know that whenever I did, I would always look for Sword, and I would always grab this card whenever I saw it, because if you slam this card down at Take Two, you basically just win the game. There's nothing they can do about it. So I can understand why they're yoinking that card out. Totally fair. So, my kind of all around thoughts on this, just a real quick summary at the end here, is I like the changes. There were a lot more buffs than there were nerfs. Actually, I think saying it out loud, I think Doomlord is the only card that got nerfed. Everything else got buffed. Yeah. Yeah, Doomlord's the only card that got nerfed. Everything else got buffed, which is good. Because I like the idea of bringing things that are weaker up to like a more stronger point, so that people who like to play them can feel a little bit more rewarded out of playing them. But at the same time, like there are cards like Doomlord that need to get nerfed, and I am very surprised they did not touch any of the other things that I had in my triangle. If you saw my last meta discussion video, talked about kind of the triangle meta, where it was Wrath, Vengeance, and Discard Dragon, and they addressed one of those three things. And honestly, this Mysteria change here, they're gonna pull Vengeance Blood out, and I think Mysteria is gonna slot right in. And so at least this way, there's at least 3 different archetypes in the triangle with Rune, Blood, and Dragon. But they didn't really solve the issue with those decks, I guess they're thinking that since they touched Discard Dragon at the very beginning with like the Noir and Blank nerfs, that's good enough. And I don't think they've done diddly squat to Wrath, at least not off the top of my head, not that I can think of. So I'm a little surprised that nothing there got tweaked a little bit. And like if you think about it, like those 3 decks that I just talked about, Mysteria, Wrath, and Dragon, they all have a clear 5 heal 5 card with Howling Demon, Drazael, and now Anangrea. And I think if they didn't want to touch like those decks at all, the most they could have done is, rather than bring this card up to them, maybe bring the other cards down to this. But maybe that would be too big of a nerf. So we'll see what happens here. I do think Mysteria is going to rise in the ranks. It's already a really popular deck. I like one of my personal favorites, but I think this is going to get played a lot more, both on ladder and in tournaments. And I think this is just going to slot into where Vengeance Blood was. And so Vengeance, Wrath, and Mysteria, Wrath, and Discard, I think, are going to be the new big dogs with Vengeance. And I could see probably Burial Rite like lurking close behind, kind of in the same category with like Mars Sword and things like that. I think there will definitely be the top 3 as like the established meta that will continue through the mini expansion, which I'm not really excited for because I was hoping that this patch would get us away from it. But hopefully maybe this will bring like the tier 2 decks higher, so that the matchups against the tier 1 decks feel more winnable, rather than you just have to hope you high roll and your opponent bricks. Maybe there's actually some opportunities for skill and player decisions to come into effect, where you can play your deck to the most and get the most out of it and have good matchups against meta decks. But that will remain to be seen. I just wanted to give my thoughts on it, go over all of the cards that are getting changed. And I believe this happens in 2 days from now. So as of recording this, it is the 24th. This was the day that the patch was first announced. This goes live on the 26th. So here in 3 days, technically, is when we will probably experience the change. 2-3 days. So I'm looking forward to it. We'll see if it helps. I hope it does, but I'm not raising my expectations too much. But we will see. So thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, I will see you in the next one.
Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along.